and girls, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, you can text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, everything else. I'm going to make my buddy Ken Charles very happy here. He's the program director at my flagship station, WSB. And I'm going to focus on a hyper-local Georgia story that's relevant to every single one of you in the United States of America. It actually is. The communists are coming with George Soros, Alex Soros's millions and millions of dollars. So let me explain this one to you for all of you nationally. In Georgia, there's something called the Public Service Commission, and it oversees and regulates like the phone company, the power company, things like that. And Democrats filed a lawsuit in federal court claiming that its structure was unconstitutional because there are members of the Public Service Commission are divided into service regions that basically mirror the congressional districts, kind of. But then they're elected statewide, so you've got to be from a region of the state, but it's a statewide vote. Now, the Democrats are the ones who imposed this structure, you should know. And for years, it benefited the Democrats and shut out the Republicans. But now that it benefits the Republicans, the Democrats have naturally declared it unconstitutional, and they went to court. And actually, the courts threw out the lawsuit. But in the process of throwing out the lawsuit, they couldn't have an election last year. So the election for the Georgia Public Service Commission has been put off until November of this year. In fact, it'll be the only statewide races, which means it will be the very first elections. There are 2 seats. It is a partisan-controlled entity, so there are 2 Republicans, Fitz Johnson and Tim Echols. They will be the first 2 candidates on the ballot, and then a bunch of cities, including Atlanta, Georgia, which means that the Democratic turnout in the state will be about 54 to 55% because it's municipal elections, a lot of them heavily Democratic areas. The Republicans control the Public Service Commission, but because this is an unusual time to have a statewide election in Georgia, they typically come in the even-numbered years, and statewide elections are always in the midterm election season, not the presidential election season. You're going to have a lot of Republicans who don't know they're going to go vote in November. And the Democrats know this. The far left knows this. And far left groups led by Alex Soros's millions of dollars have decided it is time for the communist takeover of the Southeast power grid. And I say that intentionally because Georgia just built the first nuclear power plant in this nation in a generation. The left fought the building of the nuclear power plant, and they claimed it was about cost overruns. And by the way, there were a lot of cost overruns. The Plant Vogtle, it's called, by Georgia Power, is the first nuclear power plant built in the United States in a generation. And we as a country had lost institutionally all the memory of how to build a nuclear power plant. They were going to build one over in South Carolina. Westinghouse was going to build a nuclear power plant in South Carolina. Westinghouse went bankrupt. That nuclear power plant never got built. And the Georgia Public Service Commission actually decided it was for the long-term good, not of the state, but of the country, to build the nuclear power plant. Why? Because Russia and China are about to build more than 15 nuclear power plants. They have the engineers and they have the institutional knowledge. It's been so long in this country since we built a nuclear power plant. All of the people who knew how to build them were either dead or retired. They literally, to build this nuclear power plant in Georgia, had to pay people to come out of retirement who knew how to build nuclear power plants to train the people to build the nuclear power plant. And the Georgia Public Service Commission, I think very wisely, despite all the cost overruns, said, this is actually needed. We need to learn how to build nuclear power plants again in this country. Now we've got one, thanks to their wisdom. But the left fought it because the left insisted that Georgia needed windmills and solar panels and renewable energy. Georgia Power Company in Georgia has a number of coal burning power plants. They've shut some down, some they haven't. All the lakes in Georgia are man-made. I didn't know this, but every major lake in the state of Georgia is man-made. It doesn't actually have natural lakes. And the biggest lakes in the state were made by Georgia Power, the power company of the state. Lake Burton flows into Lake Rabun, which flows down in the Chattahoochee, and you eventually get down into Lake Lanier, which was the Corps of Engineering project for water. But then you've got Lake Oconee, you've got Lake Sinclair, you got Lake Allatoona. All these are dammed lakes by power companies to generate hydroelectric power, and also water for the coal burning plants to generate steam, Lake Juliet and others. And the left wants to get rid of all the coal power plants. They don't want the nuclear power plants. They want wind and solar in Georgia. Now, I don't know if y'all know this, because many of you listening right now, thanks to the growth of the shows, you're not in Georgia. But in Georgia, every afternoon during the summer, we have rainstorms that produce a lot of clouds, and the solar energy output goes to zero. We also have hail in the storms. You know what hailstones do? Hailstones are pieces of ice, and they get big, and they fall out of the sky, and they hit the solar panels, and they smash them, and the solar panels break. And there are parts of the state where there are days you're not going to get a lot of wind. And what the left has decided is that in Georgia, we should get rid of our farmland. Georgia, we're called the peach state, but our big crop is actually not peaches. South Carolina, you guys over in South Carolina listening right now, y'all actually produce more peaches now than Georgia. Georgia's number one crop is actually blueberries, of all things. We produce more blueberries in Georgia than any other state. But we produce a lot of pecans and peanuts. I'm sorry, pecans, my wife would say. I tell my wife all the time a pecan is something you flush, and she rolls her eyes at me and says, no. But we got pecans, we got peanuts, we got a lot of cotton. We're still the South, grow a lot of cotton. And the left solution to power is that we should get rid of the land on which we're growing the peanuts and the peaches and the pecans and the cotton, and we should put solar panels. Near me is 1,000 acres. Used to be farmland. They grew corn and raised cows. It's all gone now. Solar panels. We took a lot of cows and crops out of commission to put in the solar panels. That's what the left wants. And they've seen an opportunity. Now, this has cascading effects for the rest of you. Why? Because Georgia has so much base load power. Base load power is the power that you can flip a switch and it comes on. We've got very near me. We've got a coal burning power plant. I can see the smokestacks from my house. We have the nuclear power plant. We got a lot of coal burning power plants in the state of Georgia. And you know where the excess power goes? It goes out to the power grid on the eastern United States, not just in Georgia. It can be directed outside the state of Georgia. And it supplements, as some states have gone to overabundance of wind and solar, Georgia's baseload power supplements other states. And the communists want California policies in Georgia. So for those of you who are listening, you need to understand what's happening is that, led by Alex Soros and other left-wing groups, the California communists have realized that this is the perfect opportunity to take over control of Georgia's power grid in November. This election from last year was put off. Democrats are naturally going to outnumber Republicans going to the polls because they're municipal elections in the state of Georgia, including the city of Atlanta, the city of, I think, Augusta, Savannah, others. They're all going to be on the ballot. So Democrats will come out. The number one and number two races will be Public Service Commission races on the ballot. And the Democrats will outnumber the Republicans at the polls. And they'll vote for the two outsiders, the two progressives who want to get rid of nuclear power, want to get rid of coal power, and actually want us to all use solar and wind power. They see it as an opportunity. Now, you should know back in the 1990s, the precursor indicator that Republicans were rising in Georgia was the Public Service Commission election. Two public service commissioners, one year and one the next year, went to the Republicans. Now, Democrats typically don't vote down ballot. I'm not sure what it is. This isn't meant to be racial, but it actually is true. Black voters, studies have all shown, typically don't vote all the way down the ballot. And that has given Republicans an advantage in the state of Georgia because a lot of these races, like Public Service Commission, they're down at the bottom of the ballot. And so a Democratic voter, particularly a black voter in a city, will go in, they'll vote for the top of the races, they'll vote for the congressional races, and maybe for governor, and then they leave, and the Republicans stick and vote the whole ballot. And that's given Republicans some advantage. But here you're going to have these two races in Georgia at the very top of the ballot. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Erickson, I live in Florida. This doesn't matter to me. If you live in Jacksonville, Florida, guess what? You get some of your power flowing over from Georgia. If you live up there in Southern Pines, North Carolina, you do too. Those of you in Birmingham, you're impacted because Georgia Power and Alabama Power are both part of the Southern Company, and they share resources. Those of you out in California listening in Sacramento right now, hi, Bill. You guys know what's coming. You know what's coming if the Democrats win these two seats. The Public Service Commission of Georgia, they've been very open about it. They're not afraid. They think they've got it in the bag. They think they're winning. And they want greater regulation. They want to change the regulations that have incentivized baseload power in Georgia for wind and solar power. They want to drive up regulations on the power companies and the phone companies and the internet providers. They want costs to go up. The Soros Fund is going to spend, along with these other groups, over $10 million to try to enact a communist takeover of the power grid in the state of Georgia. And it's not just the power grid. It's the phones. It's the internet. You know what they want? They're being very open about it. They think that it's too cheap. That's right. They think your internet is too cheap. You know what? In Georgia, I learned the other day, I actually didn't know this. You know, there have been a number of stories in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and elsewhere that your power rates are going up because power companies, they don't want to just jack up the rates on the data centers that are being built around the country. So to reduce the costs to the data centers, they're raising your power prices too. So your rates are going up so that the data centers don't have to pay the full price of their power. Not in Georgia. Not in Georgia. In Georgia, the data centers have to pay the full price because your rates aren't going to go up. And you know what the Democrats actually want to do? They want to raise your rates because they want the data centers. They think the data centers will bring jobs. And so they actually want to spread the power increase costs to you. Not only that, they're actually arguing that if they increase your prices, you will decrease your power consumption. And that's a good thing for the environment. They actually want to mandate that you have to put those thermostats in your house and let the power company control your thermostat. They actually want you to have to put those in your house so that when there's too much demand on the power grid, the power company can turn off your air conditioner in the middle of the summer, even if you want it to be left on. That's the sort of stuff that the communists want. That's what they do in California and elsewhere. That's what they want to do in my state. You know, I've got one of those thermostats and I love it. I can turn on my thermostat. I'm in my office right now. And I can turn on or turn off or raise or lower the temperature in my house remotely from my phone right now. I love it. But I refused to allow the power company to access it because I don't want the power company to say, "Yeah, we think he's using his air conditioner too much. We're gonna slow him down." It's my air conditioner. I pay the bill. One of the things that the left wants is for you to have to allow the power company to control your thermostat. All of this is to tell you to get ready. In November, there will be two public service commissioner races in the state of Georgia. They'll be at the very top of the ballot. And if Republicans do not show up, which the Democrats expect is going to happen, that Republicans won't show up, the communists will take over the Public Service Commission and they will implement Democrat-style policies we see in California. The choice is yours, and this has greater national impact because I know it sounds like I'm being hyper-local talking about Georgia, but again, Georgia has so much baseload power from its coal plants and its nuclear plant that Georgia spills over a lot of its excess power to the eastern power grid. That'll all go away. So will your ability to control your thermostat in your house. Fair warning.